How are we going to increase the rate of adoption of AI in healthcare?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're not too hungry, and thank you for being here with us. I'm very excited to speak here with you and with our esteemed panelists about the adoption of AI in healthcare. So AI has the potential to revolutionize healthcare, especially when it comes to diagnostic, treatment, patient outcomes, and operational efficiency. But as we all know, it comes with challenges, barriers, ethical barriers, data privacy issues, but as well a lot of opportunities. And here with our esteemed panelists, we will tackle all these topics. And just before we go right into it, let's have a quick round of introductions. I will start first, ladies first. So I'm Luisa Dobre, I'm the CEO and founder of Comet Health. We are based in Zurich, in Switzerland. We develop a secure collaboration and communication platform integrated with different hospital information systems in the idea to empower doctors and nurses with real-time data on the go and ultimately improve patient care. So, Ali, would you like to take over?
Thank you, Louisa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Avi Mehra, a medical doctor by background and associate partner and clinical safety officer at IBM in their healthcare technology division, where a lot of my work does focus on AI and its application in healthcare. I'm also the co-founder of a non-profit organization called Doctorpreneurs, a community for medical innovators and entrepreneurs in the space.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Ali Tinasli. My background is PhD biophysics. I built new businesses at Sony and HP in the US. Now I'm with Lifespin in Germany, and we are building, based on the blood sample from a patient, the digital twin, and use the digital twin for precision health information in the areas of preventative care, diagnostics, and treatment monitoring. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephen Burke. I'm a serial entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO of Cardi AI. We're based in the Czech Republic, and we're tackling remote ECG monitoring using for long-term ECG monitoring using AI. And I'm happy to say that this week we closed a 1.5 million euro oversubscribed seed round, which is going to allow us to continue further development of the product and additional market expansion.
Hi, my name is Sandeep Reddy. I'm a former medical doctor, but currently working as an associate professor in the Deakin School of Medicine. My focus of research is translational AI. I'm also the founder and chairman of Helia, which is a medical technology company. And in the past, I've been recognized by the World Health Organization as a digital health expert.
Great, thank you so much. Amazing panelists here today. I'm overblown. So let's start with the first question. Avi, would you like to start this by telling us what are really the challenges and hinders to actually have a broader adoption of AI in healthcare?
Yeah, sure. No, really important question. Look, this is obviously a big year for AI. It is the topic on everyone's discussion these days. Generative AI is a huge topic, and obviously that brings with it its own set of challenges that we can talk about. But if we just take a step back for a second and reflecting on some of my own personal experience around building and trying to implement clinical AI solutions in healthcare, three things I think jump out to me. And the first is simply around trust. And it's a really big word, but when we're talking about adoption of clinical solutions in a healthcare setting, clinicians and other staff using these systems have to fundamentally trust the systems are accurate, are safe, and are actually ultimately going to help them. And fundamentally, you know, if they don't trust that the data that the systems have been trained on and validated on is not representative, has minimized bias, and that they can really leverage it in their clinical practice, that's going to be a major hurdle to begin with. So trust is fundamental. And I've seen that personally from really trying to implement solutions in different markets. The second, very quickly, is around clinical adoption. Even if the system is accurate and checks the box from a clinical evidence perspective, if you can't get the system to fit within a clinical workflow and actually help a clinician in their day-to-day tasks and save them time, problem number two, a big issue. We don't want to be opening up more systems, creating more time. And the third, ultimately, is around business case. and return on investment, because at the end of the day, someone has to purchase this solution. And if you're trying to go and sell it within a hospital or healthcare system, and you don't have, firstly, clear clinical evidence, but then to go along with that, a very compelling economic plan and a clear understanding of how this is going to lead to a return on investment, you're going to have major adoption challenges, regardless of how clinically accurate the solution is. So I'll just pause there.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
I like your point about trust, Avi. You trust only things which you know and or understand. So step one to build the market for a new product category is to explain in an understandable fashion of what you are doing. For example, in our case, we generate the digital twin. We compare one digital twin against 100,000 of other digital twins. And everyone knows how to compare him, herself to another person. We do that since our childhood, right? I think understanding, explaining is very important when it comes to market adoption, to speak about real problems which can be executed, knowing that it's not about the technology, it's about the use case which matters, that the physician, the healthcare provider, or the payer sees this as a useful new technology, not just a gimmick.
Do you have anything to ask, Stefan and Sandeep?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the points. Trust is such an important issue. And as a telemedicine solution with patient empowerment aspects to it, meaning that you give actionable guidance back to the patient, back to the user, you need trust on both sides, because you first have to convince the doctors and their peers that this is a working solution, with data, with patient studies that are conclusive and non-debatable. And at the same time, you also have to build the trust for the user into the app. So I think it's going hand in hand. And I believe that overall, though, the more that the medical community and people begin to trust AI, it's going to help the adoption massively. We have this guy in the Czech Republic who's kind of like the mad scientist of medicine technology, named Carol Cantor, and he talks about this whole progression of how medicine is beginning to trust artificial intelligence and trust technology products. And he talks about, like, from 2014 until about the COVID period, he calls it the mad scientist period. And now after COVID, everyone got used to this remote capability, and it's changing people's minds.
Okay, thank you very much. Sandeep, do you have anything else to add
I just have
here
one
regarding
point.
challenges? Yes.
Yeah, with the challenges, one important component that often gets ignored by various people, even very smart people, is the data. Did you know that the highest amount of data comes from the healthcare sector? Of all the sectors, we produce the highest amount of data. But most of the data is not, it cannot be used to train machine learning models because the data is biased, it's corrupt, or it's incomplete. And when you use this kind of data, you obviously produce inaccurate results, and that's also leading to mistrust about machine learning. Obviously, there are solutions and frameworks. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, so actually this brings me to the next point, because we talk about trust. So actually the question directs to you, Sandeep, regarding the ethical implications of adopting AI in healthcare. Can you share some of your thoughts on that?
Some of the solutions?
Yes.
Yeah, so as Avi mentioned, trust is a big factor in adoption of AI technology. So how do you overcome that? For me as an educator, education is probably a very important component of that solution. You not only educate the clinicians, but also there's a role to play in educating the patients, the end consumers, because you can have the clinician use the AI technology, but if the patient is not is mistrusting of the AI technology, it doesn't get used. So there is education for the clinician and education for the patients. So the way you approach educating clinicians is not to make them data scientists or computer scientists, but them get enough information and confidence in using the AI technology. But in terms of the patient, you don't necessarily have to even train them about the AI model, but you need to inform them that AI is being used in that particular context. That's one of the approaches with addressing trust.
Thank you very much. Avi, would you like to share some strategies that would, from your opinion, would lead to the adoption at scale for healthcare organizations?
Yeah, so I think first thing to say is AI cannot be your strategy itself. And a lot of organizations, I think, sometimes misunderstand that and think they're over-reliant on the technology. And AI cannot be a strategy in itself, but AI can definitely enable your strategy as an organization. I think, again, from a healthcare, I'm thinking more from a clinical perspective at the moment. In terms of being a clinician by background, really getting clinical leadership in place and clinical champions and clinical sponsorship is absolutely key, because when you're talking about clinical pathways, clinical workflows, if you don't have clinicians engaged from the outset, you're not going to get adoption, whatever solution has been purchased, with whatever results. Simple as that. The other thing is around taking a sort of safety-first approach. And I know, so risk management is a pretty boring topic, and I get it. Look, as a clinical safety officer, I have to give very boring talks around clinical risk management. But the reality is, if you don't address it head on and start with really understanding your risk assessment and your risk tolerance as an organization, it's going to be very hard later then to determine how you choose to go about implementing AI. So I think taking a safety-first approach and leading with really holistic risk assessment, risk management, risk mitigation will then enable you to understand your risk tolerance as an organization, and then understand, where you should be focusing in terms of what areas can drive the greatest value, what's your short-term versus long-term game. And I would say start with the areas where there is lower risk. There's huge benefit to be unlocked from efficiency and productivity gains in a lot of administrative functions and middle office and back office functions. And I think it's a lot lower risk than going straight in and saying we're going to transform the clinical workflow and start implementing AI that's going to directly impact patients, where if it goes wrong, it could kill a patient. So I think those would be a few things in terms of when you're thinking about a strategy as an organization.
Thank you so much. So Ali, I'm going to you now, because you are actually hands-on working with AI in the company you are leading now. Can you give us specific examples how actually you master AI, and how do you, some use cases that prove to make the whole workflow more efficient?
I think one use case among our activities in preventative care, diagnostics of complex diseases, and treatment monitoring actually is treatment monitoring. Because even the most conservative, old-fashioned healthcare provider understands the need of adjusting the chemotherapy for cancer patients. So we are conducting clinical studies where we can read the metabolic phenotype as a response to a given chemotherapy on a patient level. That means, as we all know, some patients respond to treatment very well, some not. That's like the classic issue in treatment, right? And we can help to give an objective measure to really look on the real-time metabolic phenotype, how the patient responds, and also how the side effects look like, impacting liver or kidney or other organs. And this is very important to start a new product category or new technology with well-known problem statements and pain points in healthcare, because then you find more allies.
Thank you very much. Actually, I have a follow-up question for you, Ali. So you treat with a lot of data points of the patient, right? How do you handle the data privacy, right? Because this is one of the topics many people will probably do all their biomarkers and phenomena.
We don't know the patient identity. We just have some numbers, just some ID numbers, but we don't know the name, we don't know the address. It's fully anonymized, and we don't need to know. What we need is meta information about the patient, basically some basic information like biological sex, age, comorbidities would be very helpful, obviously. For example, we have received recently 30 patient samples from Hong Kong with hepatitis B disease, and this knowledge is important because then we can look specifically after impact of hepatitis on a body level.
Perfect, thank you so much. Stefan, you are also the founder and CEO of Cardi, a company that is actually using AI to diagnose patients. Can you share your inside use cases of adoption of AI?
Sure. So we're coming at it from a point of leveraging AI to deal with things like scalability and cost and practicality, right? So we focus on the European Union as a market for a very specific reason, and that the European Union is something like over the next 25 years, there's going to be a 40% increase in arrhythmias in the population, right, which is far, far greater than the other regions of the world. And we make the assumption that cardiologists and doctors are not necessarily scalable units, right? You can't just put in an order for an extra 200,000 cardiologists in the next 20 years and expect to get it. So we believe that AI is going to be the solution to dealing with this problem. We want to be able to also deal with preventative medicine, right? There's, in the Czech Republic this year, there is the Ministry of Health that's doing kind of the year of the healthy heart. And they're doing some campaigns to show the cost to the public healthcare system if you don't do preventative treatment. And it's very significant. They've got some good innovative marketing campaigns to raise the awareness of the public that, you know, if you're going to the hospital to deal with a heart problem, it's costing in the, you know, hundreds of thousands of euros, right? And so we've brought a product to the market that's low cost. It uses stock measuring devices that are easy to acquire. And it allows us to do screening for arrhythmias on a mass scale. At the same time, it's aligned with current research that indicates that you need to measure at-risk patients 14 days in a year. So practically, this isn't possible with the current state of the shelf. So if we come at it from an economic point of view, it starts to make business sense to the healthcare insurance providers. It starts to make business sense to the hospital providers. And because it empowers patients to do something about their own health, it improves their state of mind, improves their quality of life.
Yeah, I think it's critical to always put the patient at the center of all this development. I think that's key. Sandeep, do you have some insights especially from the Australian market, when it comes to effective solution of adopting AI at scale in organizations?
So just before we came here, I was speaking to Steve about my experience with the US market and the Australian market. Australia has one of the best healthcare systems in the world. It's been ranked as one of the top 5 healthcare systems in the world. We are very fortunate to have it. But on the other hand, the flip side is that we are very conservative about medical technology. We still use faxes, we still use pagers, and outdated technology in the healthcare. A large part of it is the concern around patient privacy and also the patient safety aspect. So we're very cautious in the way we adopt AI, but having said that, we have the benefit of looking at the failings of other markets and then be able to adopt it in a much more safer manner. So we have really some good examples, sporadic examples, but really, really nice examples. So we are using AI for sepsis detection. As you very well know, sepsis is a condition that can really lead to adverse events, can lead to patient fatality. So being able to recognize sepsis on time is important. So that's one of the good examples that I have. We are also using AI in the primary care to recognize moles, malignant moles, and so forth. But largely, we are still a little bit behind the other markets. But I'm very, very optimistic that we'll be adopting AI on a large scale in the coming years.
Thank you very much. Avi, could you share your thoughts, especially coming from IBM? You have access to so many future trends and technologies are coming. What is your take? What do you think in 5 to 10 years? Where will AI go, and what will be the major opportunities?
Wow. So look, we're obviously at, I believe, an inflection point within AI in itself. I mean, I would say AI in healthcare, we've been experimenting, tinkering for the last decade or so, making progress in some areas. If you look at imaging, Sandeep talked about mole detection in other areas. We've seen some promising examples of AI being implemented. Traditional AI and machine learning, should I say. I think what we've all got to realize now, what happened on November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT was released and sort of brought to the imagination and to pretty much every individual who accessed it, this sudden understanding of this next evolution in AI and this new era of generative AI and what this unlocks. And with it brings huge opportunity, as we can see. I think this is, a lot of people are describing this as a Netscape and iPhone moment. I believe potentially it is. Of course, we're in the hype cycle right now, so it's hard to fully understand, but there is enough to say that this is going to have a hugely transformative impact across industries and across society. So both from a positive perspective in terms of opportunity and value that it unlocks, but the bigger question is around the risks and challenges that it also brings. We talk about workforce displacement, job displacement, huge issue. Privacy, surveillance, another big issue. Data security, everything that comes with the potential. So there's no doubt we're going to see, I think, greater adoption of both traditional AI and machine learning and now generative AI at scale in the next decade. We're going to have to figure out as a society and as a world how we deal with that in an ethical way and in a way that really safeguards what we are as a society and really also safeguards the role of human judgment, which still has to be key. So a lot to be excited about, huge potential, huge opportunity right now, I think, to innovate in this space and to leverage all the learnings from the last decade. But I mean, I couldn't have predicted what's happened in the last 12 months, so I'm not going to make any predictions about what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
I didn't give you a Golden Globe yet, so yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Before we actually jump to the next session, I would like to hand a question to you. Anyone is brave enough or curious enough to ask a specific question to our guests here? No. No one. Oh, Alex. Alex is only one.
So I just want to understand how you see the data being owned either by the individuals or by the HCPs or maybe by the other entities. You talked earlier about data arriving in your platform de-identified. Totally agree. But have the users offered their consent?
Of course. First of all, let's dissect what is data, what is information. Data is raw material, right? With algorithms, you convert data into valuable information. This is what we are doing. So basically, it's enabled by our proprietary algorithms. And what we deliver is precision health information for the use cases mentioned. Obviously, it's a matter of the market and the agreement, consent with the user, with the healthcare provider, as well as with the patient. But because it's a new product category, it's a new question I think the world is being facing, but it's something which will be solved. I think it's nothing, I would say, too complicated. It's just like when you take a raw material, turn it into something more valuable, you pay, right, for that's it. I wouldn't see this as a big challenge. It's a matter of defining it.
Okay.
So, Louisa, can I add something about data privacy and data sharing? There's two important approaches. I don't want to get too technical, but there's federated learning and differential privacy, which in cases where you can't get the consent from patients, you can adopt those two approaches. I encourage you to look up those two approaches, pretty technically neat and very smart approaches.
One more question, but very short and short answer,
Sure.
please.
Sure, try to be there very crisp. Frank Flacke, healthcare consultant. Coming back to the development of the AI systems, it's all about training, and so we have a vast database out there from clinical trials in the past. And are you able to tap into those? Coming also back to the concern that the other guy just raised is the consent was not given at that time because nobody could foresee what it is, but it's a pile of gold sitting somewhere that we should be able to tap into.
I think, so first it's important to have curated data. Taking just any data doesn't help. Otherwise, it's garbage in, garbage out. So we have our own standardized measurement, advanced measurement system to collect raw data, about metabolic information from individuals. We have our own curated database. It's a proprietary database, which then, in alignment with our clinical study partners, is matching state-of-the-art clinical know-how. Does it answer your question?
Not really, but anyhow.
And just to add on the data component, I know we've only got 30 seconds. I guess one of the challenges we have to be aware of that I guess foundation models sort of introduce, which maybe traditional AI systems didn't, is that you've got to remember foundation models are generally trained on huge, vast amounts of unlabeled data in largely a self-supervised fashion. Now, that is very different to curating a very specific data set for a specific use case and training it in a very specific way. We've only got 7 seconds, but lots of pros and cons, something to think about, something to look at. But thank you.
Thank you so much. And most important, I think I took out of this panel that trust. Trust is key. And the second one, put the patient at the center of actually developing any solution for the patient and not the hospital or the healthcare organization. But of course, the healthcare organization has to be set in the right way to actually adopt all these different solutions. And yeah, I would like to thank you so much. And if you have questions, you can ask our speakers right after the break. Thank you so much.